Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Red Hat Chief Architect and your MC for the week, Thomas Cameron.
Good morning, everybody. How's everyone doing? Saw a lot of bleary eyes this morning. Looks like there's a little drinky last night for a couple folks. Listen, you guys really took it to heart when I said to post your experiences to social media. So thank you very much, and absolutely make sure you keep that up. Remember to use hashtag #RHSummit, and let's keep that feed going. And how about a round of applause for the folks who ran the 5K this morning? Talk about motivation. Holy cow. We got a picture of the 5K this morning. So fantastic turnout. We had about 200 people show up and run, which was awesome. Now, we have a full day ahead. There are 15 tracks with 5 sessions each, so it's going to be a great day. There's 6 instructor-led hands-on labs and dozens of options for self-paced labs. We're also going to have 3 keynotes on this stage that you're really not going to want to miss. But first, we're going to start the morning with our second video from the Open Source Stories series. The nonprofit Enable Community Foundation supports a global community of volunteers who are using emerging technologies to develop innovative solutions for underserved populations. The Enable community is pioneering the movement by designing, fabricating, and distributing open source 3D printed prosthetics for people who need them, and they're giving them away for free. Yeah, absolutely. It's an incredible project, and we've got a video that I want to show you.
I like to say, we make children smile, we make parents weep, and we make nerds rejoice. And any of those is actually a real badge of honor, but to be able to do all 3 all at once, which is what usually happens, is huge. The whole Enable thing was a let's just see what happens, and open source turned out to be the easiest way to do that.
When I first walked into this lab and saw a young man named Derek receiving an arm that was made with a 3D printer, I was just blown away. I couldn't really believe it at all.
So I'm looking down at this and I'm not seeing a hand and some weird plastic thing. I'm seeing 2 hands.
He says, so I was born without self-consciousness with a hand like this, and my dad and I designed this thing, and we use a 3D printer, and he goes, boom, boom, and everyone leaps to their feet, and they give him a standing ovation.
Our goal is to totally democratize the process so that any amputee can find an appropriate device and get access to the information and the design files and make themselves an assistive mechanical device.
Our mission here is to make these designs available to anyone, anywhere, to provide access, not to protect treasure.
I can't imagine new designs being developed and delivered to the marketplace in a matter of weeks or months, doing it the old way. Being able to share and build on each other's ideas is a whole new world.
What we're trying to do is we're trying to almost like fast pace what you would originally do with research and development. So you have one idea here, and you have another idea here, and you have someone who can help you make that idea either happen or even better.
One set of designs all came together with a project where we built an arm for a child in Mexico, starting from his existing prosthesis that was given to us in September. We'd incorporated all the best things that we've been designing for the past 2 months, and they got there to him just in time for Christmas.
And that was all possible because of the technologies and the philosophies that allow good ideas to go around the world at the speed of light.
That's incredible, incredible work. Look for the full Enable video this summer. And I am intensely proud to say that the proceeds that were raised from this morning's 5K run, almost $5,000, will be going to the Enable project. So thank you to everyone who ran. We encourage you to donate or get involved with the Enable project. If you go to enablingthefuture.org, you can participate there. And also, John Schull is here at Summit. So let's give him a round of applause for all the great work that the Enable project has done. The trailer video is really just a glimpse of what we're working on. You can go to redhat.com/open source stories to get involved and to participate. We also want to hear from you. If you have an open source story that you want us to know about, send an email to opensourcestories@redhat.com or just post it on social media with the hashtag #OpenSourceStories. This morning, we're going to be hearing from two longtime and trusted Red Hat partners, SAP and Intel. For more than a decade, Red Hat and SAP Solutions have been providing customers with actionable information from a real-time platform. For example, one customer, PV Electronics, recently deployed SAP HANA on Red Hat Enterprise Linux, helping them to get more insight from more users, especially users on mobile platforms. Together with Red Hat, SAP gave PV the processing power that they needed to deliver new business analytics. And we're excited to see more success like this in the future. And PV is not alone. We have seen a 300% increase in the consumption of Red Hat Enterprise Linux for SAP HANA this year. After that, we'll hear from Intel. For 20 years now, Intel and Red Hat have had an amazing partnership and really driven innovation in the data center. And together, both companies are really dedicated to open source. They're the two top contributors to the upstream Linux kernel. Intel and Red Hat are now collaborating to optimize OpenStack for consumption by the enterprise by simplifying and speeding up those deployments. And you can learn more about what Intel and Red Hat are doing at onramptothecloud.com. That's the number 2. We have 3 keynotes coming up this morning. The first will be Paul Cormier. Paul has been at Red Hat for 14 years now, and he was really one of the driving forces behind the transition from Red Hat selling box sets at Best Buy and trying to keep afloat with t-shirt sales and hoping that people would get support to the enterprise service model that we enjoy today. So let's turn it over to Paul.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome President, Products and Technologies Red Hat, Paul Cormier.
Good morning. You know I say this every year, so forgive me, but it's just incredible. When we look back at, where we started from here and to look around the room and look at the changes we're making as an industry, it just never ceases to amaze me. But what I'm going to talk about today is, I really want to talk about that. I really want to talk about the changes that we're all making together and what that's meaning to us, not as just an open source community, not as just 1 or 2 companies, but as an industry. I left off last year where I said the application is king and the OS is the heartbeat. It's exactly where I left off last year. So much has happened in open source in the enterprise since then. It's almost in open source lives, open source years that you look at this. A lot's happened. Since we last met, if you look at it, VMware has announced that they're now going to get into the Linux container operating system business. A far cry from just a few years ago when they said the OS was dead. You look at Microsoft. Microsoft has completely embraced Linux on its Azure platform and seen it grow. Certainly a change from just 2 years ago. And IDC. Recent IDC stats have shown that there are only 2 operating systems in the data center today. Windows and Linux. What a moment. You know, this is something that we live by. This is hung in our offices for almost 15 years now. In Red Hat, with Red Hat Enterprise Linux, we went through every single stage of Gandhi's insight on this. And as we've gone through every stage of this, we check it off. We look at this every morning when we come in the morning. And I'm here to tell you today that Linux and the open source community have won, and they've completed the Gandhi quote here. We can now check that last box of Gandhi's insight. Linux has won in the data center. One of two in the data center. Think about that. But now all of our job, we're not near satisfied. We've just gotten started. Now our job is to take open source all the way across the infrastructure and the application development infrastructure in the enterprise. And if you look at it, if you really look at it today, open source today is solving some of the most complex problems in software. Let's take a look at what's driving that. And let's talk about how these projects might follow the same path as the OS that Gandhi talked about. What's driving all this? Business demands today are just demanding efficiency, agility, and innovation from the technology partners. This is exactly what's driving the technology trends of today. It's the business that's driving this. Cloud, mobile, and big data, with the convergence of infrastructure and platform as a service, infrastructure as a service and platform as a service, really brings the line between the operations people and the developers together. It really brings those lines blurring almost and into one motion. These are some of the initiatives, these are some of the open source initiatives that are really driving this today and completely driving the DevOps push that you hear and read and see so much about today, everywhere. You know, these demands are causing a seismic shift in the IT industry. You just ask any IT professional about that. It's causing them to move very quickly from monolithic apps to dynamic apps that need to scale on demand. From open source being perceived as risky, not secure, not in the mainstream, not enterprise ready, to just mainstream, being widely adopted, one of two in the data center. Amazing. From a compute-centric model to a software-defined model where infrastructure across compute, networking, and storage is now software-defined. From very long innovation cycles to very compressed innovation cycles. And to really looking at IT as a cost center to IT as a competitive advantage to the business. This is really what's driving a lot of these technology trends of today. But, you know, from these communities of diverse interest comes rapid innovation. This is what open source does best, is rapid innovation. Pure open platforms are platforms that the world can build upon. That is the model that lots of people miss. This is not about just seeing the source code. This is about sharing. This is about innovation on top of innovation on top of innovation. This is about solving problems that are just too big for one company to solve alone. That's what you're seeing out there with open source. This is the open source model that brought Linux to the enterprise in a relatively short time. The compute, data storage, and networking and changing application model are all elements of building the cloud and the applications that run on that cloud. Those are the pieces that are driving this. But you know, as business demands move and technology responds, how do we rapidly respond to new problems such as, are all apps going to have to be stateless in this new world? How do apps run consistently across this new infrastructure? I've heard some people even say, is infrastructure going away? Is it just going to be magic? How do OS technologies have to change to adopt to this? even questions about what is the role of the OS in this new changing model. And one of the big ones that needs to be there for this to succeed is, what are the security implications in this new model? Let's start and let's talk about where we are with the compute layer and how we got to where we are with the compute layer. First and foremost, Linux is the compute layer that the cloud is built on. End of story. No argument. That's just the way it is. Linux is really formed from the rapid development of many open source projects. I mean, Jim mentioned this last night. There is not one Linux community. It is the collaboration of many communities to come together and form a high-performing operating system called Linux. This has rapidly changed the way that industry innovates and develops software. The industry now innovates on that Linux platform. It's innovation on top of innovation on top of innovation. 12 plus years ago, we at Red Hat brought Linux to the enterprise. And we brought it there with a model and an ecosystem that has made it into one of the 2 leading OSs in the data center today and of the future. But you know, we had a few bumps in the road along the way. VMware got in there and they did a very good job of innovating with virtualization at this layer. And they were the first to bring virtualization to the compute layer of both Windows and Linux. But they tried to control it and stifle it with the proprietary lock-in model. But with such a powerful, powerful open source development model already gaining steam and gaining momentum with Linux, that community responded to this. And they brought KVM virtualization to the Linux compute layer and opened it completely back up. So we took a little bump in the road there for a couple of years, but now the community just opened it all back up for us. And just as we did with RHEL, what we think our role in this is as a company, Red Hat responded. And we brought Rev to the enterprise with a combination of Linux and KVM virtualization in a model that they could consume and move it into their critical production loads. Now what really happened along the way here, with the community out there having that very powerful combination of Linux and an open virtualization layer, we really gave that community a powerful platform to continue to innovate on. And this is what led to the building of the cloud. The ubiquitous cloud just would not be here without Linux and open virtualization. That's just a fact. You just can't argue with that. But public cloud providers, what they did on top of that, they began to build on top of that Linux and open virtualization layer and built a scalable infrastructure and offered cloud service out to the world. But CIOs now wanted that same power behind their firewall and under their control. The OpenStack project was formed to deal with this, to deliver on this. And we at Red Hat did what we do. We got involved with it. We heavily participated with that OpenStack project upstream. As always, we contributed 100% of our developed code back to the upstream to keep that innovation going and keep the model vibrant and moving. And as it was designed and developed and built on Linux, we brought it to the enterprise. Developed and deployed and delivered on RHEL, with RHEL's lifecycle and RHEL's vast ecosystem that made it acceptable in the enterprise, that made it usable in the enterprise, that made it really relevant for running critical enterprise workloads. And we brought this out to our customer base. This is what we do. And now what you're seeing across this with RHEL and with these products, you're seeing the 4 footprints of the infrastructure of the data center of now and the future. We've talked about this for a long time. Physical, virtual, private, and public cloud. All built with compatible versions of RHEL, giving the application a consistent, predictable, and performing platform to run upon. That's very, very important, as this now becomes the infrastructure the data center managers have to worry about and manage as one. Across each of these footprints is what we think makes up the hybrid cloud. And this is what operations groups now look at as their infrastructure to deploy apps and manage those apps and secure those apps. But what happened as well while all this was going on is the movement really started to get some steam. And while the operations people were building out their hybrid cloud for more efficiency, open source development continued to gain steam even on the application side. The application developers started up many new projects of their own to solve some of their problems, to move them further along in their open development. But the applications developers, they had a huge advantage. They had a world-class performing platform to develop on, Linux. And in their mission to move, the development stack needed to build commercial apps from the world of a complete proprietary lock-in model to the world of an open applications model where applications were being built on pure open source technologies. That was their mission. They needed app servers, tools, libraries, and they wanted it all in an open development model. When they started, some of the favorite languages of the developers were built completely in open source. But this initially led to the building of apps that were mostly monolithic and thus contained within the four walls of the server. This was really the first generation of applications that were built on pure open source platforms and pure open source tools and pure open source languages. But I think what happened along the way, what people realized very, very quickly, that applications constrained to the four walls of a server are very limiting. But as open protocols such as HTTP developed, we saw a whole new set of technologies that enabled us to bridge servers, data centers in the entire world. This really formed the foundation of the internet as we know today, on open source. And it happened at a rate that had never, ever, ever been able to be accomplished with the proprietary development process. Again, just too big of problems to be solved by one company. With that foundation to build upon, frameworks sprung up and they further empowered developers to build more powerful applications. The power of these frameworks really allowed the developers to build the modern web that has driven us all the way out to the cloud today. So the next logical place for the open source movement to take place and open source innovation to solve real problems was to displace the lock-in development technologies within the enterprise. But open source once again had to invent new things. They had to provide capabilities in new areas such as human workflows, rules, messaging, and mobile. But just as we saw in the innovation of open source software and getting us to the web, the JBoss community sprung up, and they responded. And they did the same to expand the app development area, and they moved us out of the applications within the four walls of a server. And once again, we did what we do. Red Hat responded with an entire set of enterprise-class products within the JBoss family, built entirely from open source development heritage and upstream innovation. This set of capabilities brought the enterprise app developer the capabilities that were previously only found in the proprietary stacks, without the limiting and costly lock-in of those proprietary stacks. The open source model brought the technologies once limited only to web developers to the enterprise developer. This brought to the enterprise in less than a decade what previously took the proprietary guys 40+ years. Think about that. The movement on that, the speed on that, the innovation on that. So now what was happening with the app development being largely driven on open source software, and the infrastructure and the operations guys being largely driven on open source software, they really needed a way to connect these two to really take advantage of the power of the next generation. This might be where the term DevOps that you hear so much about first started. One of the new technologies that sprung up from open source software was containers. I mean, containers have been around in other operating systems for a long time, but the time and the place that we're bringing them in now with the development out there, with the cloud out there, with the innovation out there, is really going to bring it to new heights. The containers are really developed to give the flexibility of the developer choices with portability across this changing infrastructure. It's connecting developers and operations in a way that we've never been able to accomplish before. These have always been two islands that really slowed down innovation. Connected now will just bring that innovation that we've seen in open source for so many years. Last year, I talked about how containers were built. This year, I'm going to talk about how we bring containers to the enterprise. I'm here to announce just that. One of our new products that we're really excited about is Red Hat Atomic Enterprise Platform, bringing a manageable, scalable platform for apps developed with containers, providing container platform for the operations guys that they can trust just as they trust RHEL today, running anywhere in their own data center, all the way out to the public cloud. The next announcement we're making today is OpenShift v3. It's very significant because we're bringing those same RHEL containers that we bring to the operations guys to the OpenShift platform, with all the deployment, orchestration, and management, as well as the tools, frameworks, libraries, and services that developers need to bring next-gen hybrid apps. The key thing on here that I talked about and is so key is the consistency, because RHEL containers across these same platforms. That's the consistency of the app, and it's all about the app. The combination of these platforms now bring the capability with containers to any enterprise, with manageability, lifecycle, security, and development tools and services. From apps development to operations, they'll embrace all the needs for commercial deployment. You'll hear much more about these two new products at the summit. I absolutely urge you to dig in on these. These are some of the most exciting products that we've brought to the market this year, and we're very excited about these products. But as with any technology paradigm shift as large as we're in right now, many unanswered questions exist and will be out there. Let's try to look at some of those questions. And why are these questions coming up? Because everything in this paradigm shift needs to scale dynamically. We can never, ever depend on a human to rack a server or cable a switch anymore. It just takes too much time for the dynamic needs of the application. The rate of change in this world with applications that applications have to respond to is just too fast. But this also raises questions on how well equipped you are to have your infrastructure respond in this way. The first question we hear inevitably: are you going to have to rewrite all your applications to be stateless due to storage limitations? Storage is still in the proprietary lock-in model of yesteryear and just starting to move into the openness of innovation. Well, the answer, of course, is no. The open source community has been working on this problem for a number of years with exciting projects, open source projects such as Ceph and Gluster. And of course, what we do at Red Hat, we bring products based on those corresponding open source projects to the enterprise. We're bringing this capability to the enterprise today to start to build out this hybrid environment. The next question we hear all the time is, when will SDN and open networking really be available? Well, I'm telling you, it's now. Built into the two platforms that I just announced are the networking capabilities to interact with a multitude of SDN products from many of our partners, to scale at whatever level you're ready to scale at and beyond. The next one is, how will your operations staff be able to manage from monolithic to next generation applications across the physical, virtual, private, and public cloud hybrid network of today? Once again, the open source community has been on these for some time. These management challenges are being worked on every day in open source projects such as ManageIQ, Pulp, Foreman, Cateo, and Red Hat is bringing these products to you in cloud forms and satellite products today. With a combination of these technologies and these products, you can run your application across any environment in that hybrid world today. But one of the biggest questions out there is, can we run containers in a secure environment? Lots of times these new technologies spring up and everybody gets very excited about them, but they don't think about the production issues down the road. And security is one of those production issues. If we can't deploy these in a secure manner, they just won't go. They just won't be accepted. And that's where containers come in. You know, while containers give us a huge change in how that content is introduced to your enterprise, it absolutely does not stop the need for that content to be secure. Introducing via a container one of the serious vulnerabilities such as shell shock or poodle or venom would be as devastating as introducing that into your Linux server farm of today. But what we've done is the certification process with RHEL that you've been relying on for years, we've extended that to a container content. So if containers from Red Hat or a certified partner will bring the same level of security as bare bones RHEL has brought to the enterprise for years. I contend that the security that RHEL has brought has been one of the major factors in its success, and containers need it as much. It is operating system technology. So really, with the introduction today of Red Hat Atomic Enterprise and OpenShift v3, combined with the capabilities that we have today in RHEL OpenStack, satellite and cloud forms, and Red Hat storage, we bring true DevOps to the enterprise today. Lots of people talk about this. There's lots of talk going on in the industry about DevOps. This is DevOps in practice today. And time will show that it just could not have happened without the innovation and the rapid development and the power of the open source development model. So I'm going to end where I started. One last slide. We can't let our guard down here. This has been, in my opinion, a fight against traditions of years and years and years. The proprietary guys do not want this change. They don't want open. Don't believe it. Open's not just seeing the code. Open's living it. Open's making it your development process. Open's taking every line of code that your engineers write and moving it back to be innovated on. That's what Open's on. Ask the proprietary guys on that. We're not going to let them take us back. It's been a huge, huge battle to get here, and now we're starting to win. We're going to come back next year, and we're going to check that last box for the entire infrastructure, just as we did for the OS this morning. So with that, thanks very much. Have a great time at the summit. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome President, Platform Solutions, Steve Lucas.
Hello, everyone. This is my first time, actually. I'm Steve Lucas. I'm from SAP. Our logo's blue, so this is a little weird. Even the stage is red. They thought of everything. Isn't that clever? So I was getting ready. You know you're at a Red Hat conference, and this is literally the only way that you know. And just let me preface this with, I'm running on 4 hours of sleep because my flight got in at 2-something from Denver, so this is going to be really fun this morning. You know you're at a Red Hat conference when they put the microphone on, and then they're like, now, and you never, rule number 3 of presenting, never turn your back to the audience, but I have to show you this. They made me wear a backup mic. Only Red Hat does that. Only Red Hat. That's like disaster recovery, fault tolerance, wear 2 mics. And I'm like, what if that mic goes out? And then the guy goes, and here's the 3rd backup one. I'm like, we're totally at a Red Hat conference. I'm good. That's awesome. Way to go, Red Hat. Now I feel like Batman presenting to you with my utility belt. You're probably wondering, like, why is this guy from SAP? Why is he not in a suit? And why has he not tried to sell me something yet? Now, the 3rd point I will get to. I promise. People up there, I'll sell you something. So I want to talk about SAP and open source and Red Hat and what we're doing. And, I'm not here, by the way, to announce that we've open sourced our ERP platform or anything. So everybody calm down. I know it's like that tense moment. Is he going to do it? No. Wait, no. So I do want to talk about the concept of simple. And this is a really big theme for us and SAP as well as Red Hat. Partly because, if you think about SAP, the first thing that you think is, and these are kind of, interchangeable terms, either, big German or German big, either one, works. So big German software company, been around a while. What are they doing to innovate? Why are they talking to us in open source? But the reality is that Red Hat and SAP have had a great relationship together over many, many years. In fact, well over a decade. I'm going to talk about that. But one of the things that we have in common is a belief that in the enterprise today, that things have gotten, we'll just say, a little out of hand in terms of the complexity, whether that's behind a cloud application or on-premise, whatever that may be. Things have gotten a little too complex. And if we're going to move into the world of digital business and enable the enterprise organizations that we help support and drive, we have to help them simplify. And so SAP is really focused on how can we simplify our business applications and what we do to help you simplify your organizations and be better at what you do. So what we do, first and foremost, is we help your business run simple. And I know that's weird. It's SAP. How is that simple? I'm going to get to that in a minute. But we do. We help your business run simple. Now, the question, of course, is, well, how do we do it? And I'm going to see if I can operate this clicker. There we go. How do we do it? And I believe, now this is the, if you don't like this, I apologize, but I put a lot of thought into this, so I think you should like it just to make me feel better. I thought about this a lot. What does SAP do at the end of the day? What do we do? Besides, our logo with a little pointy thing that looks like that crawler in the Star Wars movie, what do we do? I believe that at our core, we help companies solve the toughest problems in the world, the toughest challenges, in the simplest manner possible. And it's interesting because sometimes, and I'm going to poke a little fun at our competitors, because Salesforce.com, they're not sponsoring this event, so I don't care. We don't approach the world with a CRM solution and go, we know that you need to extract oil from this area of the world. Use CRM. That's not our approach. Our approach is that we sit down with companies and we help them solve the world's toughest challenges in the simplest manner possible. What I believe at my core is that SAP doesn't back down from a challenge. Sometimes that means that we have to take on really tough things. But here's the cool thing. Most of the time, if not half the time, we're building that on top of the Red Hat stack. We really are. And that's the cool thing. That's part of the reason we're here. Now, how do we, or with what technology do we do this? What is SAP? Because SAP has evolved dramatically. If I were here 7 years ago, 6 years ago, you would have said SAP is an ERP company. But just a side note for SAP, less than half of our revenue actually comes from our apps now. Most of our revenue actually comes from our platform business, specifically SAP HANA, our database technologies, which plug into many of the, we have OpenShift cartridges. We're going to talk about that. I keep thinking about Atari cartridges when I say that. Our next generation enterprise platform, which I'm about to talk about in a minute, SAP HANA, as well as what I believe to be the best business apps in the cloud and a connected global network. Those are really the three areas of SAP. Granted, we've spent a little bit of money, circa $25 billion over the last 7 years, to expand the company. We've acquired companies like Sybase and Ariba and SuccessFactors and Concur and many more, but we've also innovated organically with technologies like HANA. And there's a story as a lead up to a Red Hat, this kind of slide of SAP's history, where when, and I know this is horrible to say, but you know, this is just, since it's a red carpet, I feel like bearing my soul today. So when we first came out with SAP HANA, we didn't support Red Hat. Didn't support it. And it was interesting because, so I've been in charge of the sales, marketing, pricing, packaging, blah, blah, blah for HANA since we launched it, and I'll tell you about how amazing it is in a few minutes, because that's coming. But the number one requested thing that we got was not a feature for the product. It was support for Red Hat. The first people that came knocking on our doors were our largest financial services companies who spend a few dollars with us every year, and they said, and they kind of like, they whispered, and everyone from financial services companies, they all talk softly, because I don't know if it's like there's secrets over there, but they all come up and they're like, hey man, here's the deal. We're not going to buy anything from you unless you support Red Hat. And I was like, okay. So clearly that was a driver and a motivator for us to do that. I'd like to say that it was all just, you know, arm in arm, Red Hat skipping down. It, you know, money was involved. So that was part of it. But if you look at the decade of innovation that we have, and you can see here, we're in the midst of doing some really great things, from Red Hat Enterprise Linux being the first Linux to support running the SAP platform, all the way up, and you can look at the timeline to things that we're doing today, like, for example, our support of OpenShift and some of the other interesting things that we're doing with technologies like our Sybase, ASE, IQ, and SQL Anywhere database products. So we continue to innovate with Red Hat. It's a great partnership, and I want to emphasize, the Red Hat platform is the fastest growing platform for our core product, SAP HANA, on the market today. So we're very excited about that. And the reality, we're very excited, and thank you, Red Hat. Now, there's no time. Oh, there is a timer up here. Okay. I always feel like I'm watching an episode of 24 when I'm up on stage. So it's running down. Something's going to explode. So Red Hat probably has a backup plan. I want to talk for a minute about what I hear kind of every time I meet with a CEO, a CIO, a CFO. It's kind of this repetitive theme that I hear. I even hear it from my own boss here at SAP. He's one of the managing board members of the company. It's this sentence that starts with, hey, you need to reduce cost, but you still need to innovate. Because we have everybody showing up at work now with all of these different phones and stuff. They're bringing their own devices that we have to support. This isn't 1995 where everyone has the exact same compact laptop with the little roll bar and we were the trackball, and we were excited about that. It's not 95. It's not standard. It's the world actually, from a device standpoint, as you know, has just become unbelievably varied. And so not only do we have to reduce cost, but we have to innovate on more platforms. It's Android phones and Apple phones and the random person, no offense, Microsoft, with a Windows phone. That's weird. And then the BlackBerry holdouts who are like, you'll take my QWERTY keyboard out of my cold dead fingers. Right? And then if you look at it, so we got 1.3 billion of the world's workforce now mobile. 82% of companies are going to have IoT applications. All this stuff going on. So we are at odds with one another. Our strategic objectives for the company: reduce cost, but do more. Well, if you're going to do that, you got to simplify. You've got to look to technologies like the Red Hat Linux, or Enterprise Linux platform at a minimum. You have to look at technologies like SAP HANA at a minimum. These are incredibly important things. Now, I believe firmly that open source, okay, I'm working theory number 1, here to stay. But working theory number 2, beyond open source isn't going anywhere, is I look at different flavors, forms of, I was thinking about this and looking at different flavors and forms of open source communities and companies, etc. And it's amazing to me when I look at these logos to think, what would the world be like if we didn't have these? What would it be like? And it's incredible to me to think about the impact that open source has had. Now, just as a side note, so this is where Steve establishes SAP open source street cred. So we are contributing to over 100 open source projects ourselves. There's all kinds of exciting things you'll find out there on GitHub. Our OpenUI 5, for example, is a brand new user interface that we've put across all of our products. Open sourced, available. We have partners of ours that are actually using it to build front-end applications on their products as well. So we love that. We're excited about it, and we're going to continue to focus on that. And if you look at what we do, so this is just one more quick comment, everything from how we use open source at the core of many of our products, how we contribute, interoperate, and innovate. This is something that SAP, we've beyond poked our eyeballs over the ledge of open source and clearly are involved in this in a big, big way. I will tell you the truth, if it wasn't for companies like Red Hat, I doubt we would do nearly as much as we do. So again, I think it's hats off to Red Hat for doing that as well. Now, I do want to talk about this before we bring out the man with the movie star name here that's a guest of mine today. He really does have an amazing name. It's really cool. I'll tell you it in a minute. There is this belief, and this belief is something that is at the core of what SAP does today. Our founder, Hasso Plattner, 7 or 8 years ago, had this epiphanic moment. The moment was, and think about what SAP has done for the last 40 years. What do? We build business apps that help companies solve really tough problems. That's what we do. We build business apps. Many of you in here build apps too. But here was the epiphany that we had as we were using other companies' software, like, and I'll just a few mentionables, but Microsoft, Oracle, IBM. So we were using those technologies. No offense, they're great. Yay for you. But here's what we found when we were building business apps. If we wanted to build, let's say, an online retail app, well, we would need to be able to have a website. Okay, fine, we can do that. You can find that somewhere in the LAMP stack, no big deal. So we'll build a website, but then we need a database to store that data, right? You buy something, we store the data. But the moment that a business user, and it's always the business users that cause the problems, because they ask questions like profitability. So they come in and they ask a question which is, well, that's cool, now we know how much we sold today, but how much did we sell last year? Now, the traditional legacy vendor's response to that is, oh, that's a totally different database than the one you just bought from me. That one, even though the code's identical, is called a data warehouse. So you're going to need another one. So now we've paid for the transactional system and the data warehouse and/or /data mart, which is just a slightly less expensive version of the data warehouse. And today we've renamed it Data Lake so they can charge more. And so we have all these things, and it's effectively the same code. And here's when the problem starts. We start copying the same data. We go, oh, well, to answer the question of what I sold today, you need this database. To answer the question of what you sold yesterday, you'll need the same database and a copy of the data. And then the worst thing is the business user comes back in and says, how much might I sell next year? And you're like, oh, for crying out loud. And Oracle will show up and say, you need another database, which is exactly the same as this one, but it's for forecasting. And now it's called predictive because it's twice as expensive, right? So there it is. And it's the same data. It's the same. It's the same system, it's the same data, it's slightly different math and a slightly different schema. And this starts to go crazy. This is the beginning of craziness, because now what's the solution? The solution isn't, we should figure out how to just kind of have one copy of the data. The solution is, no, man, we got all these data management tools that'll just copy it all over the place. And that's not the answer. And that was the epiphany that we had. The epiphany was a belief that we could change our stars, we could change the future. And so we designed a system called SAP HANA. And what HANA is effectively is a new type of database platform. And that new type of database platform allows you to store any kind of data in any shape you want one time. If you want to use it as a transactional system to store transactions in real time, you can do that. We actually eliminated disk from HANA's architecture. HANA is a 100% in memory. 100% in memory. I'm not talking about solid state disk. I'm talking about volatile memory, volatile in a good way. So 100% in memory database platform that is so fast that we were able to allow it to act as a transactional system, a warehouse system, and a predictive platform all at the same time. So everything that we do at SAP, from our new open platform, SAP HANA, to all of the business applications that we build today, which are all built on HANA, to our connected network, Ariba and Concur, all work together, all on SAP HANA. Why? Why do this? So the next time your inventory level is low at your company, a human doesn't have to run over here and go, that looks low. Let me press the reorder button. We can actually have HANA, as it is intelligent, go out to the Ariba network, which is a supplier network with over 400,000 suppliers, kind of like a cool version of eBay, just awesomer. And it can reorder that technology. It could even, or that product, it could even look for better taxes, better shipping rates, better terms that fit your bill of materials, reorder it automatically, boom, bring it into your company. That's what SAP HANA is. And now we've taken a version of SAP's HANA database platform and put it in the cloud in a multi-tenant structure called the HANA Cloud Platform, hcp.sap.com. And HANA Cloud Platform allows you to cut any developer. If you're a Java developer, you're about to love this, you may actually weep. You can literally go to hcp.sap.com, sign up for a free account, forever free, and build any app on top of any SAP product, and you don't need to know anything except Java and learn our API. And that's exactly what we're driving today. So we're really excited about that. And HANA really is at the core of everything we do. And just to tell you a little bit about that, we thought, like, what is the coolest freaking company that we have that is using HANA and Red Hat Enterprise Linux and a much broader Red Hat platform? The person we found, so we thought, okay, PV is super cool because they make guitars, number one. And then number two, the even cooler thing, this man's name is Cortland Gray. Cortland Gray. Literally, you show up for an interview, you say, my name's Cortland Gray. They won't ask any other questions. They'll just hire you. I'm Steve. They'll be like, show me your resume. So I'd like to introduce and welcome to the stage Red Hat and SAP's fantastic customer, the Chief Operating Officer, COO of PV, Cortland Gray. Cortland, welcome.
Howdy.
How are you?
A composite acoustic guitar made in Meridian, Mississippi.
A composite acoustic. That is beautiful. And where is it made?
Meridian, Mississippi.
Now, we were backstage earlier and I was playing. I said, what if the theme for our demo today was free falling? Like, what if we did that? Anyway, you know, we tried. I play a little. Okay, so this is amazing. Now, this is signed by
Signed by Hartley Peavy, who founded the company in 1965.
Oh, now, just as a side note, a couple of these are actually being given away at this event. Is that right?
Yes, there'll be one at the SAP booth and NEC booth as well.
Oh, sweet. Okay, so a fight's going to break out later. So, real quick, I know that PV has, and we were talking about this backstage, operations all over the world. Missouri, China, you name it. And you just got back from
I've been in Asia for 2 weeks and just got back yesterday, so I'm a little
excellent.
tired.
So it's like 3 a.m. for you.
I don't know what time
so
it is.
So there's 3 of me. Talk to the one in the middle.
This one,
Talk to the one in the middle. Okay, so tell me about exactly. Whoa, Steve.
A little woozy.
So tell me about, why PV looked, kind of at Red Hat on the one hand and SAP and specifically HANA on the other hand. What was the situation from your point of view?
Well, it was time for an upgrade. We had a database that was, data warehouse system was pretty slow and cumbersome to get information out of. So our partner 3V Solutions, which is our SAP VAR, had suggested SAP HANA and a Red Hat solution, and it's been a wonderful change for us.
Excellent. And I know that you moved off a competitor's platform and moved, amongst other things, to SAP HANA. Mm-hmm. We'll spare the name, even though I could talk. It was right there in the speaker notes. We won't. We'll lighten up on them a little bit this morning. But the goal was, I assume, improve overall speed, performance, responsiveness to the business. Was that the goal? Yeah, we really needed to get more information quicker and faster. I mean, it would be 30 minutes to run a report sometimes, and occasionally you might have to call the IT department to kill a report because your computer locked up. So we needed to get more information out, get it to the users and decision makers, and just expand it to our distributors around the world as well. So, I mean, they need to get information from us faster as well. I was in France earlier this year before we made the conversion, and was trying to get them on our system, and so they could pull some information from us, and it was very painful. It actually, the French liked it because they could click on it and start a report, and then they could go off for a 2-hour lunch, and then it would just about be ready when they got back. I think the phrase is laissez-faire for that. I'm not sure, but
they didn't mind it so much. But I think most other parts of the world, they want faster speed.
So faster's better, and so now you've moved to the Red Hat Enterprise platform. You've got SAP HANA running on top of that. What's the outcome?
Just improved speed and better communications. We can get real-time information now, and because you can get the information so much faster, quicker, it just encourages you to go in the system even more, to pull more information out because it's not painful to get.
So user adoption's gone up because you've gone from 2 hours to instant. Right. Mm-hmm. That's amazing. Ruining French people's lunch everywhere.
Got to get in the real world.
That's right.
Efficient times now.
So we've gone from slow responsiveness, multiple hours to get content, to Red Hat platform, SAP HANA on top of that, real-time reports, real-time analytics, part of PV.
Yeah, and NEC was involved with Red Hat, and they did some good things for the system. It's got some redundancy and very cost effective.
Well, excellent. So we're kind of like two microphones, fault tolerant at this point now.
We got it. Covered.
Excellent. So Cortland, I want to thank you for coming out. Thank you for showing us this beautiful, amazing composite acoustic. It is beautiful and sounds beautiful. But more importantly, on behalf of Red Hat, our partners, and SAP as well, I want to thank you for being an amazing and inspirational customer. Thank you so much.
Glad to be a part of it.
Thank you
for your help.
Cortland Gray, everyone.
Okay.
So, just as we wrap up here, I've thought a lot about this, and I've been so excited to just be part of this amazing event. This is truly a great group of people. I'm inspired by the great customers, and Cortland and what he's done with PV is just truly unbelievable. Here's what I'd like to leave you with today. I know that amongst many things that Red Hat and SAP share in common, there's one belief. That core belief is that we can, as I said earlier, simplify the enterprise. We can do that. Because at the end of the day, whether it's you or me or the CEO or somebody in the top floor or someone on the shop floor, we want everyone to be able to run their business from one of these. That's where the world's going. That's it in a nutshell. And we know we can do it. We can do it together with you. We can do it together with Red Hat. We will get there. I'm so excited about the future. I'm excited about the great partnership that we have together with Red Hat. And I want to thank you all for being great partners, great customers. I look forward to speaking with you. Have a fantastic rest of the conference. Thank you very much.
Now was different. Now your data center has the intelligence and flexibility to handle any demand. In real time, Now you can scale instantly to deliver a tailored experience to individual customers. At the speed of innovation, at the velocity of business, at the pace of change. Anticipate loads on the grid from a cool breeze or drop in temperature. Foresee and develop the next trend by analyzing terabytes of data. Now you have a data center compatible with your imagination, the new center of possibility.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Senior Vice President and General Manager, Software and Services Group, Doug Fisher.
Good morning. Good morning. All right, because we're going to light it up today. Yeah, no, we're not in Colorado. We're not going to light it up like that. So today I'm going to talk about lighting up the power of the software-defined infrastructure. But before I jump there, I want to talk about what else we lit up this morning. How many of those did the run this morning, 5K run? Yeah, good job. I had no intention or even understood that it was happening until last night, and Cormier threw the gauntlet down and said, I'm going to take you. I don't think that was the words he used, something about kicking something. So I showed up this morning to race Cormier. Now, he was bragging about how good he was and how his time was going to be so much better than mine and all this stuff going on. The race went on. I ended up running with Whitehurst. And probably about 6K into the 5K run, he turns and says, guys, I got Google Maps and we're lost. So anyway, I said, well, I still need to know if I beat Cormier. So we got a photo of the race, and using Hadoop and data analytics and facial recognition software, we figured out where each of us were. And so there's me right there raising my hand in victory, yeah. And we found Paul just at the curvature of the earth. Where is Paul? You took a risk putting me up here, you know that. All right. So let's get going. So imagine a data center that can respond to the velocity of business, to the rate of change, to that speed of innovation that we're seeing today. And then imagine the business you can derive on the digital service economy. That's really what it's about. And in order to derive that, you need to have an infrastructure that can fully take advantage of that opportunity. At Intel, we look at 4 vectors of innovation around ensuring that you have the best competitive advantage of capturing some of that value. The first thing we do is deliver an optimized roadmap around various workloads. Our roadmap is deep. We have low power, cost-effective compute, all the way up to the highest performing compute capabilities. A deep roadmap to address the various workloads you'll deploy in the data center. That's our job, to keep innovating around our platform silicon to ensure that we give the best opportunity for you to compete. We work with the leaders in the industry to help define standard approaches to modernizing the data center, taking advantage of dynamic resource pooling, ensuring that you're getting the best efficiency out of your data center. And then we ensure that we work with the analytics, the thing that you need to extract that business value. Data is like crude oil. And until you mine that data, there's no value in it. So we ensure our platform is optimized for analytics. And then we work with that software ecosystem to optimize that solution. You've seen the work we do with companies like Cloudera and Hadoop and others to optimize those solutions on top of our platform. Now that you have this data center, you need to ensure that you take full advantage of the finite resources you have. Ensure that you're delivering the best capabilities to your customers with the resources available. And that's why orchestration is so important. And that's where I'm going to jump off today, on the software-defined infrastructure necessary to do that. Let's talk about the opportunity there is for everyone in this room. We've heard the projections many times. 50 billion connected devices by 2020. 50 billion connected devices. We've also heard that the amount of data available is going to be enormous. The projections continue to grow. It's already at 44 zettabytes of data by 2020. That data I talked about that needs to be mined and value extracted. Where does that value go to? It goes to an opportunity to drive revenue. And the service economy projections have continued to grow and are at $450 billion projection by 2020. That's going to drive the need for more devices to be consuming that value, which in turn is going to drive more data, which then in turn drives the explosion around the digital service economy. That is the opportunity. We're already seeing the trends occur in the business today. Businesses are driving the need for agility, performance, and efficiency as they provide that value to their customer. You're seeing this day in and day out. They're already driving to take advantage of this. We see customers like Netflix, Uber, and others driving this capability into the market. And you in the IT space are starting to address these trends. Self-hosted clouds, performance, and efficiency in your data center. You're also addressing the needs of security and compliance. And we're starting to see beyond compute virtualization. We're starting to see network and storage virtualization. So the movement is occurring. And at the foundation of all of this is that dynamic resource pooling. This is what you need to build a modern, efficient data center. You can no longer rely on the legacy approaches, but you need to move forward to a modern, more efficient, more responsive data center, which involves dynamic compute resources. Not only compute, but storage and network. You need to be able to orchestrate that workload. You need to be ensured that that workload goes to the proper operating or compute environment. You need to be able to manage that to take full advantage efficiently and responsibly for your customer. But more importantly, we need to drive intelligence into this orchestration. We are passionate about driving intelligence into that layer. That intelligence allows a workload to move to the right compute environment. If you understand information about that compute, whether it's the power, the performance, the location, information about that will help you guide where you put that workload. You're not going to have a homogeneous environment. And so you can move workloads to the appropriate compute platform necessary for that workload execution. You also know that it's a dynamic environment. So getting telemetry information, status about that data center helps you better manage and move compute resources around your network. And so if you try to manage a workload in a certain geography, knowing where it's at, where that workstation's at, will help you move the workload to the proper place. If the thermals get out of control in one area, you can offload it and balance it across the other part of your data center. We call this the software-defined infrastructure. And for the open software-defined infrastructure, at the heart of that is OpenStack. OpenStack is gaining tremendous momentum. We have over 25,000 members already in OpenStack. Well over 519 companies are already participating. We're starting to see deployments happening, and this is not deployments in small companies. These are deployments in Fortune 100 companies. BMW, Disney, Walmart, and others are deploying OpenStack into their environment. So we're seeing it go mainstream. Now we're seeing a tremendous innovation happening, rapid innovation. Paul talked about what open source drives. It drives rapid innovation, and we're seeing that. We have over 1,300 contributors driving capabilities into OpenStack today. Just in the release in April, Kilo release, we saw over 400 new features deployed. The pace of innovation is moving in this space. So how do we harness that effort? There's lots of innovation going on. We need to harness that to ensure that we focus on the right capabilities in OpenStack to drive the readiness. That's where the OpenStack Foundation comes in. driving working groups. Intel has been very, very active in helping drive and establish these working groups. We're participating in many of the working groups. 4 that I want to bring up are the Enterprise OpenStack Working Group, focusing on the objections or the barriers or the inhibitors in the enterprise of deploying OpenStack. And I'll talk a bit more about that toward the end. On the Telco OpenStack Working Group, ensuring that we meet the needs of the telco industry. You all remember what we did in carrier-grade Linux, where we built up a carrier-grade Linux capability. We're doing the similar thing in the Telco Working Group, ensuring that we address the needs and the requirements of EDC and putting capabilities like OP NFV into the telco capabilities. We know that the future continues to evolve. We know that we're going to continue to grow and strengthen OpenStack. We know that the requirements are going to continue to come in, but we have to maintain focus. And that's what the product working group is about, to ensure that we establish the right priorities, get the right resources applied, and get the right energy innovating and building to strengthen the OpenStack capability. And then finally, in the latest working group established, I'm very proud of, Intel is very committed to inclusion. So the diversity working group is just that. It's designed to ensure that we have inclusion and diverse viewpoints and a safe place to drive that capability into the industry. We've done many studies at Intel, and we know for a fact that this makes good business sense. It's often coined as the right thing to do, and it is. But it's more than that. It makes great business sense to have a diverse workforce working on solutions. You drive more profitability for your business by doing this because you come up with better solutions. We are one of the top 10 contributors to OpenStack today. We're focusing on projects that help us drive the readiness, whether it's higher availability for the enterprise, which is so critical, higher performance and reliable performance, which I talked about in that scheduler, to ensure that that workload goes to the right and most performant environment. Better efficiency. Again, you have finite resources. You need to ensure that you efficiently deploy those workloads in your environment. And so having that right capability in the scheduling environment is critical. Moving forward, the next generation of networking, like NFV, is critical for this environment, and software-defined networking. And then stronger security and compliance as policies and regulators get involved, whether it's from an industry like the health industry, whether it's governments or your own IT business has regulations and policies and compliance. We're ensuring we're meeting the needs of all of those. There's also other efforts going on. We've all heard about containers. Containers are moving very, very quickly. There's 2 challenges that needed to be addressed. One was just the compliance and compatibility. Everybody should have seen the announcement. Intel is a founding member of the Open Container Project, designed to provide a common, compatible container format to allow that innovation to thrive. When you get that commonality, innovation will drive the capabilities in the containers. Another big concern around containers has been security. So at Intel, we're being active in finding ways to help secure container-type usage models. One of the things we're doing is tying that to our virtualization technology already built into our platforms. We're already showing proof of concept of running a lightweight VM on our platform, giving you that security that you expect and want, but also giving the responsiveness. We're able to boot that environment in around 150 milliseconds, which is very consistent with the container technology. So we're driving performance, but getting the value of the tie to hardware security, giving you more value to you to be able to deploy container-type technology usages. We're also looking at how we secure and better provide security capabilities, tying the host kernel to our hardware. And so we just open sourced in May our, let me move forward, our Intel Kernel Guard technology. The Intel Kernel Guard technology is designed to tie to our virtualization technology, better securing the host operating environment. And that was open sourced in May. And then one more area we're focusing on is the Intel Cloud Integrity technology, using attestation to secure an environment. using our Intel Trusted Execution technology that's built into our hardware, we're now able to create a trusted environment all the way from the boot through the operating system up to the workload. We just recently demonstrated this securing a container environment using this capability. In a traditional way that Intel works, we're driving all this stuff upstream. We're ensuring that the upstream capabilities get incorporated into the ecosystem. So we're driving capabilities upstream, and then we're working with the ecosystem to adopt these technologies and deliver them to the market. Speaking of adoption, doing things upstream is critical. Doing things the right way in the Linux operating environment is critical. Doing the right things in OpenStack is critical. But we also need to drive adoption. And that's why 2 years ago, we started working with Red Hat on the on-ramp program, on-ramp to enterprise OpenStack. In this program, we worked on things like hands-on training, where we had workshops for IT managers to understand how to deploy OpenStack capabilities. We gave them access to labs to look at their workloads and deploy those workloads to see how they would operate. We let them build out POCs to see what workloads would be the best for their environment. And then we went to scale this program with system integrators and VARs to ensure that we gave everybody an opportunity to participate. The program went so well that we've decided today to extend that program to add in engineering framework. Now remember, I talked about the enterprise working group. The engineering framework is really focused on requirements coming out of the enterprise OpenStack working group, focusing on ease of deployment, high availability of tenants and services, and rolling upgrades. These are the most critical aspects of OpenStack that need to be solved. And so our focus and effort from Intel is on those elements to ensure we drive that capability. Working with Red Hat to drive this into their release of OpenStack, Red Hat Enterprise OpenStack. So together, we're going to drive this capability so we accelerate the adoption of OpenStack. So Intel and Red Hat are working very close. Yeah, that graphic looks kind of rude, actually, now that I see it on stage. We did a build last night. That's what you did to me, Paul, when I finished today. Yeah. All right, let's build it. It's like concentration. What's the rest of the picture? All right, so Intel and Red Hat together is not enough. We need to work with the ecosystem, the OEMs. I'm very pleased to say that Cisco and Dell have both agreed to participate in building out the full solution to help accelerate adoption, combining all of our experience, simplifying that adoption process, and giving you more confidence to deploy these capabilities into your environment. You'll hear more from Cisco and Dell going forward about the programs that they're putting into place to help drive the on-ramp capabilities. So I'm very, very pleased about the cooperation we have with Red Hat and with our OEM partners to make this possible. So it really is, for the businesses, it's about seizing that opportunity. You heard earlier Paul say, and I totally agree, that the businesses are transitioning. There are traditional businesses, but the IT environment, you're becoming a business as well. And you need to seize that opportunity, seize that service economy. Developers in the room, all you guys developing, we need to continue to focus on the most high priority items to drive readiness. Drive that readiness of OpenStack so the deployments continue to grow. And then the data center, you need to embrace, participate in on-ramp. Make sure that you guys are actively involved in deploying these capabilities. There's companies out there, probably your competition, already doing this. You need to ensure you embrace that as well. So in conclusion, I want to make sure that you guys know that we are giving away a Dell Venue 8 tablet. It has 3D technology in it, RealSense technology, allowing you to take 3D pictures, which is really cool. All you have to do is tweet or Instagram hashtag Intel at RHS with your selfie. Paul and I have already done this, so we're now on your chair is the light up. You have to put that on, put the light up around your neck or your wrist, take a selfie and fire it off there and have a chance to win today and tomorrow a Dell Venue 8 tablet. All right, so in conclusion, Our partnership with Red Hat continues to grow. We continue to build that strong relationship on things like OpenStack and lighting up the software-defined infrastructure. Everyone in this room is participating in that. Whether you're in the business, whether you're in IT, or whether you're a developer, we all have to work together to make this possible. So let's go forward, let's light it up, and let's make software-defined infrastructure the wave of the future. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, what a fantastic morning. Some amazing announcements from Paul, and please, let's give another round of applause for our fantastic partners, SAP and Intel. What a morning. Well, folks, don't forget that there is a coffee break in the Partner Pavilion, and of course, the important after-hours cocktail hour. So swing by and visit with us there, and make sure that you continue to tweet your pictures of the Red Hat Summit event with hashtag RH Summit for your book facing and your tweetering. Let's do some social media goodness. And that is a wrap, folks. We'll see you tomorrow morning at 8:30. Thank you very much, and go forth and summit.